So is it significant that the federal part of this investigation is still going on? He seemed to kind of imply, well, we're not out of the woods yet. We have that. Is that really significant?
Well, I look at some of that as being a lot of PR spin, if you really want me to be honest, Lee. I think that some of that is trying to sort of give or hang out a bone for those protesters and individuals who may be upset about the outcome of the grand jury proceeding in order to provide some semblance of hope and kick the can down the road in order that people might not feel that it's a complete wash at this point.
Even though you have President Obama in office and he's been very, very adamant about justice and fairness, and Eric Holder has spoken a lot on this, so even with that in consideration?
Well, you have to consider that we've already seen this story. This movie has been played and we understand how it ends. We saw this in the wake of George Zimmerman being acquitted in Sanford, Florida. There was a lot of conversation. The NAACP started a petition to have an investigation reopened on behalf of the Department of Justice and Civil Rights in hopes of having civil rights charges filed against George Zimmerman. That never happened. Not much came of it. And I suspect that in this case, because of what is required in order to have to have Darren Wilson charged with civil rights charges on a federal level, that's likely not something we're going to see.
And if you look here, you can see people are really active on the streets right now. And earlier we saw that 500 people were protesting in Union Square in Manhattan. There's no violence reported in New York City right now. You know, one thing that really shocked me was when he was talking about the various witnesses that were involved and that they were trying to locate witnesses, and not even the FBI couldn't find some of these people. What do you think about that?
That's a really interesting question, Lee, because at the end of the day, that still begs the question of, if you could not find these witnesses, if the FBI could not locate these witnesses, you're talking about the Federal Bureau of Investigations for the United States of America. If they weren't able to find these witnesses, then what evidence did the grand jury actually hear? I suspect that in the coming weeks, we're going to have this evidence poured over bit by bit. Every inch of it is going to be examined upside, downside, inside, and out. And one of the things that is going to be sort of a question mark is who did not speak and who didn't the grand jury hear from.
I want to break in here. As you can see, there are already people breaking windows here. It's already turned somewhat violent. We're going to see if police are able to get this under control or if there'll be violence against the police officers. Definitely a historic moment.
Well, I think one of the things that people who are outside of Ferguson need to remember and need to consider is that Missouri is one of the most segregated states in the country, and that the city of Ferguson was already dealing with a bubbling race problem under the surface. This is something that only escalated that because it gave a face to the pain that the citizens of Missouri and the citizens, and particularly citizens of color within Missouri and within the state,
I think within America,
absolutely have been feeling.
Let's push it forward.
And that's what we're seeing. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that frustration boil over. And one of the things that sort of troubles me is that this indictment, for as much, or this failure to indict, for as much violence as it may have created, it may have actually created more Darren Wilsons.